This year didn't go the way many of us hoped. For trauma survivors, that sense of unmet dreams and losses can feel especially overwhelming. Maybe you thought you'd achieve something big this year. Maybe you just hoped things would feel easier or things would go a different way. But what if I told you that this disillusionment, this moment where reality didn't match what you thought was going to happen, doesn't have to hold you back? In today's video, we're going to talk all about why disillusionment feels so painful, how reflecting on the year through intentional reminiscing can help you reconnect with hope. And we're going to go through at the very end a simple exercise to help you turn the page and step into the new year with clarity and intention. Hi, I'm Kitty. I'm a trauma specialist in private practice here in Central Texas, and I make educational videos with real talk for real people about mental health, drawing from my clinical expertise as an EMDR therapist, but also from the view of recovery and work that I've personally done recovering from my own traumatic past. If you have any questions or comments or wonderings, post them in the comments below and I'll get to them as soon as possible. I definitely want to know how this lands with you. All right, let's dive in. Disillusionment often feels like failure, but it's actually part of a bigger process your brain goes through when things don't go quite as predicted. We go through this kind of a thing all the time. Now, many times people think disillusionment is about this big ideology or idealized reality or something like that, but it actually happens in really small ways every day. Disillusionment often feels like failure, but it's actually part of a bigger process your brain goes through when things don't go as predicted. We actually go through this multiple times a day, right? Maybe I'm going to go do a thing and something happened and it's not going to happen that way. And we take a minute and go, okay, switch over into plan B, right? That is a process of disillusionment. So it doesn't have to just be about some big idolized illusion of some major thing. We actually do this all the time. Your brain already knows what to do. I'm going to break this down into a super, super simple equation that my engineers watching are just going to absolutely love, okay? Especially those of you that really like to logic your way through things. What I want you to remember is I will use the term illusioned state, illusion, things like that. That doesn't really mean like some big thing. That could simply be plan A isn't going to work, so I got to pivot to plan B, okay? So just kind of let that go while we go through this video. So step one is our illusioned state. Something happens that disconfirms that illusioned state. We feel confused or surprised, like, whoa, what's going on? Then we develop an awareness of an incongruence between the illusion and reality. We might feel disappointed. And here is where problems can crop up, right? In that feeling of disappointment, others react to that with validation or invalidation, or our parents' voice or that mean teacher's voice is in our own mind, and it invalidates us. So disappointment is just a feeling, and how others react to it will help us stay stuck or not stay stuck, be able to move forward. Okay, here's an example. How does this play out in real life? Let's use the example of going out to dinner. You're going to go out to your favorite restaurant. There's our illusion. Then you arrive to the restaurant and all the lights are off. Okay, this is our disconfirming event. We feel confused, like, okay, it's a night they're supposed to be open. I looked at Google Maps before I came. It said they were open. So now I'm confused because the lights are off. So we've had this disconfirming event followed by confusion. You walk up and see a closed sign on the door. Oh, it's closed. I'm disappointed. Really was looking forward to that delicious meal that I love to eat. So here is where those problems can arise. Depending on how you talk to yourself about the disappointment, how others treat you because of the disappointment, if you or others criticize, invalidate, or judge that feeling, we'll just stay stuck and perhaps get irritable, shut down, have a big reaction, something like that. But if we allow room for that feeling to just breathe or exist, we can move forward with plan B with minimal emotional reaction. If we just pause for a second. My clients are so sick of hearing this from me, but there is real power in the pause. So just pause and allow your brain to catch up. So, how do we navigate our way through disillusionment? It's the end of the year. We're reflecting on the year. This is the perfect time for that. So, one way to navigate disillusionment is through intentional reminiscing. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why would I want to think about the past when it's painful or it hurts so much? When done intentionally, reminiscing isn't about staying stuck in the past. It's about finding moments of strength, joy, meaning that remind you of who you are and what you're about and what you're capable of. So, a lot of times people will stay stuck because they're still having an unmet need of being seen, heard, validated, connected with. And so we stay stuck until we get that need met. When we allow ourselves to self validate or seek connection from others, then we can let that feeling go and we don't stay stuck. Okay, question. What was one thing you did well this year? Even if your year was a mess, I bet it wasn't 100% messy. There's at least one moment in which you showed resilience, kindness, courage, or experienced success and joy. Maybe you kept going when things felt impossible. Maybe you set a boundary even though it was scary. Maybe you just got out of bed one day when it felt like the world was just too heavy. Maybe you got a great hug from a friend or a loved one, or heard a joke that made you laugh. These moments matter, right? They're not big deals, but these little micro moments really, really matter to our brain and our nervous system. They're proof that even in disillusionment, even in disappointment, we're still growing, we're still healing, and there are still moments of happiness, even in the midst of sadness, grief, loss, disappointment. We've looked at disillusionment. Now that we know why it feels so hard, how reminiscing can help, let's take it one step further. I want you to reflect on the equation we talked about earlier. Go back in time to January. And how did you think this year was going to go? What were you hoping would happen? How did reality set in and challenge that expectation, that hope, or that dream? Then ask yourself, what did this teach me about myself? Maybe a negative thought about yourself shows up, right? Like, well, you're an idiot, right? That's possible. And if it does, that's okay. I want you to reflect and think on a time in which that wasn't true. So if I'm an idiot or I'm a failure shows up, I want you to pause here. We're going to say thank you for the feedback to that voice, that part of you making that statement. And then we're going to think about a time in our life in which we were successful. Whatever that negative thought is that shows up for you, if it does, then you're going to think about a time in which the opposite was true. Okay. Then we're going to set an intentionality around this reminiscing. So you're going to write down one moment from this year where you showed resilience or learned something about yourself. Use this as a reminder of your inner strength. What did you learn about yourself in that moment? Maybe it was, I can do hard things. I have grit and determination. Maybe it's, I'm brave when you asked for that raise, even though your knees were weak and your palms were sweaty. Just saying. We're going to set a North Star for next year. Instead of setting rigid resolutions, we're going to set a North Star. I'm going to make another video about North Stars, so keep an eye out for that. But North Stars are an overarching value or intention that guide you into the new year. So a North Star might be, I'm going to prioritize self-compassion, or I'm going to be curious about my healing journey. Focus on progress, not perfection. So we don't have control over a great many things in our life. Unfortunately, I wish we did, but we don't. So when we set these super rigid goals, they keep us locked into perfectionism, rigidity, and inflexibility. Now, that means that say something happens, like you get an illness or something like that, that knocks you out for a week and you got to lay low to recover, but you had a goal of, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. Well, how are you going to feel when you've got to take care of yourself? You're probably going to feel like a failure, right? So if we set a North Star that's more focused on, I'm going to take care of my health however I need to this year, well, then when we get sick, we can lay down because that now becomes the best way to take care of ourselves, right? So we can be flexible while still heading in the direction of our goals and dreams without inflexibility and perfectionism coming in. How do you want to take any positive learnings from the previous year or the previous step into the new year? Can you lean more into this in the new year? We were just talking about health. I'm gonna have my North Star of health. And how can you lean more into that? How else can you take care of your health, right? There's 10 different ways. Maybe it's I'm gonna work out. My goal is to work out 5 days a week. Maybe it's I'm gonna also incorporate some yoga in that. If I'm having an under the weather day, maybe I'm gonna rest. I have a pretty stressful job right now. I see a lot of trauma clients, and sometimes the best way for me to take care of myself is to have a do nothing day. That means when it's cold and rainy outside, I just sit in bed, and I snuggle up. I mean, I was from San Francisco and lived in Seattle, so I love me a cold, rainy day. And if it's one of those, I'm going to snuggle up in bed, I'm going to be cozy, have some warm drinks and enjoy it. Just sink myself into that day. And sometimes that is the best way I can take care of myself instead of going and pounding on the pavement with a run. Disillusionment can be painful, but it's also an invitation to let go of what is not serving us and reconnect with what's real. So take a moment to reflect on what this year has taught you about yourself and set that North Star to guide you into the new year. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's your North Star for your next chapter? Let's inspire each other as we step into the new year with hope and intentionality. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you. Please like, subscribe, share to make information like this accessible for others. Remember that calm, curiosity, and compassion is the key to reconnecting us all in this very divided world. Catch you next time.